Hey everyone, this is Max at Max CTCG. Thanks for joining me in another video. So what we're going to be doing is going over Fire King combos for the deck, part of like going through this whole like taking the structure deck and seeing different ways you can go about playing it, from a beginning structure deck to the new like powerful Snake Eyes version. We're going to go over different combos. We'll start with Ponix, move into other engines that you can cover like Dogmatica and Tri-Brigade. And then we'll also move into the Snake Eye deck, where that's where the combos vary the most. I have quite a few combos here we can go over. So it took a bit just to kind of compile everything, make sure I actually understand it. A couple things I think that's good to note when learning combo videos is I do think sometimes when you're going about them, you have to have a good state of like reference for thinking about the combo. Sometimes people show these really crazy combo videos and you're like, wow, look at all this the deck can do. But they're not realizing that this combo is kind of like a good standard starting point combo, but it'll play into almost every hand trap. And I think that was kind of what the initial combo I was seeing going around that Pack showed and other people were kind of starting with. That combo really played into Nibiru standalone as a starting point for the initial Snake Eye combo. So it can be really important to consider, what does the deck lose to? Is there something else I need to consider when playing through it? You know, what hand traps do I think people are playing? What board breakers am I playing? You know, what does my hand look like? Does it have a lot of engine? Does it have a lot of, non-engine cards? Because that can change the board you're gonna make. If you have like 3 hand traps and you go for a greedy line and get punished, those 3 hand traps might not carry. Where if you go for a more conservative line, depending on the deck and the format and the power level of the format, you might be fine just having a few interruptions on field with more in hand. So I think it's really important to think these things through. I think just copying combo videos, just learning spreadsheets, those aren't going to make you really good at the game. It's important to take your combo that you're learning and be like, okay, what happens if they imperm me on this summon? What happens if they ash me here? What happens if they have a combination of hand traps? Can I play through it? And if your deck can't play through a combination of hand traps, that's not abnormal. A lot of decks will get stopped by 2 hand trap combinations. It can be important to think those things through, where are your choke points, how to play. Just keep those in mind when going through combo videos. All right, so this is going to be the initial base Ponix combo. So we'll start with this if you're playing the structure deck. That's how this combo works out. You're going to start with normal summoning Ponix, search Fire King Sanctuary. Sanctuary searches Island. Island will destroy the Ponix to search Garunix. If you're new to how this wording works on the card, it says here that you can special summon this card from your graveyard if this was there when the monster was destroyed. So it has to be in the grave when a monster is destroyed, or hand even if not. So or hand even if not means that it's still checking on resolution. So even though it wasn't in hand when Ponix was destroyed, it's still recognizing that Ponix was destroyed on resolution to special summon itself. So now Garunix will summon itself. It'll destroy Barong, and then you'll be able to go to the end phase and go to the standby phase to get your triggers. So what this combo is focusing on is being able to summon the Exceed monster to blow up your opponent's field. So during the standby phase, make sure not to forget these. Make sure if your opponent's like main phase, like hold on, standby phase, things I want trigger. You're gonna get your Ponix and your Barong. These don't chain, they're just separate triggers. So you can add more or less whichever one first. At Ponix, and then you can add Barong to add the Avatar Kirin. Now this combo is pretty easily disruptible. How it works, you could imperm the Ponix, but in a Fire King variant, you do have to worry about Kirin. So if you imperm or effect Veiler Ponix, Kirin could pop it to allow it to go through and still get your initial like XYZ play. So that's one thing to be wary of for a Fire King variant. But depending on your hand, sometimes it's worth just attempting to stop them. If you have multiple hand traps, maybe it's better to try to stop them in a different way. This combo is also very weak to your Ponix or Barong being stopped. So if you can stop the search of Barong, it can be good to not let them get to Kirin. If they don't have another fire in hand, getting rid of the Ponix from the grave with like a DD Crow could be nice, but you're kind of gambling on do they have nothing else to use with Kirin. So I think that's kind of like a very greedy play where you're stopping their follow-up, and if it works out, it's great. But if they still have something, they're still gonna hit. So if you're gonna DD Crow the Ponix, you'd probably have wanted something else to stop the Kirin from being able to go off. And maybe you have like a Cosmic or something else to pair with like a DD Crow or something. So these are some ways you can kind of stop this combo from going off. It's pretty linear and easy to stop because it's just one card. I think that's kind of some of the issues with some of the other variants we're going to be talking about when you're using like Dogmatica. You're just making the deck more consistent. You're not really increasing the power level very much of what the deck can do, but still focusing on this card. But this still isn't a bad combo for getting started. One thing I also want to go over, because I think newer players might struggle with this, is they'll see the initial combo and they're like, okay, this is what I do, but they don't know what to do afterwards. So I think it's really important to remember your deck strengths and how it works. So one thing I did here, for example, is I summoned Sacred Fire King Garunix in defense mode. So summoning this in defense could be really important in any type of Fire King mirror match. If you're just playing structure deck, like match with your friend, or if you're, playing a Fire King Snake Eye deck, it can be important to make sure your monsters are in defense mode. Because one thing that you can do is your monsters have effects when being destroyed. So even if you don't have a great line, for example, I will show some kind of back and forth footage of me just playing against myself, showing how the interactions can happen. It's not saying these interactions are perfect, but you can see how you can use these cards to kind of grind out in a game. So you have to utilize the fact that your cards have destruction effects when either being destroyed by battle or card effect, and then trying to pair them with other cards to kind of help get through it. Because if you don't have other things to kind of slow down the grind, I think it'd be really hard if you're just playing pure and you both have the exact same resources. So one of the best things to utilize is Garunix. Garunix is great for being able to summon itself and destroy a card from deck. So your main targets are going to be Barong if you're searching follow-up, Ponix if you're searching follow-up to get it back to hand to summon. You can also send Kieran, which when it's destroyed lets you non-targeting special summon a Fire King from grave. So if you have multiple, they can't just DD Crow it to stop it because it's going to target after on resolution. You can then non-targeting destroy a card on the field. So Kieran is going to be a major point for this deck's interaction in a grind game. You can also destroy Arvata, which can special summon a Tri-Beast monster like Beast Wing Beast or Beast Warrior Fire from grave. So you can use that to get back cards like Kieran onto the field, or other cards that you want to trigger like Ponix or something. So you can use that to be able to get a lot of advantage in a grind game. So I'll kind of show you this idea of how the grind game might play out. So they're going to go for Ponix. I'm going to activate Sanctuary and then the Island. So what I'm doing on the resolution of Island, because from here they're going to have to destroy the special summon, I'm going to trigger my Kieran, I'm going to destroy my Ponix, and be able to get my cards onto the field. This will, also trigger my Ponix to come back on follow-up because I destroyed it. They're going to use Island to destroy Ponix. That's going to let them trigger their Garunix. Garunix is going to summon. Now from here, it's kind of tricky. I think what you want to do. Right now, we're obviously just playing with like very simple, like one card hands. So it's to make it less complex. But in a hand where you have a lot more extenders, you might play a little differently. But here I have the Garunix playing for follow-up. And what we're trying to do is now go into the board wipe to wipe the board. Because what I want to do generally is wipe the board when Garunix is not in the grave. Now right now Garunix already triggered its effect, so it can't trigger. But that's something you have to be careful in a grind game, is destroying their monsters. When they have Garunix in grave, it's going to allow that to come back. It could dump a pretty large monster to get itself pretty big. So it's something you got to be careful of when this is in the grave. We're going to have our triggers. We have the Exceed Summon. It's going to pop the Garunix. They can't push this turn, and they stitch the Barong for their follow-up. What they do is they drew an Imperm for turn, just because of how I have the deck set up. I'm able to draw. Now they set the Imperm in this column, which is nice because Sanctuary protects the island from being destroyed, so they can turn that off and also negate another card on the field. I also drew Imperm because the decks are identical right now, so I can't use it. What I can do is I get my Ponix back during the standby phase, they get their Ponix during the standby phase, and they get their Barong. So again, being able to interrupt them, they would have like turned off their follow-up if they weren't able to get to Kieran. Or Ponix, I guess, in this situation. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Sacred Fire King to go after the back row before playing into it. One thing with this card too that's really good you have to remember is that you get to special summon Fire King monsters from the graveyard up to the number of materials this card had when it's destroyed. You can combo this with other cards that you have like Circle or the Skyburn when you're playing the more pure versions, and even some of the Snake Eye variants are playing at least one of those for the Fire King Snake Eye deck. You can combo those to be able to destroy this card, get a lot of damage on board, like attack with this, destroy it, summon something else back, trigger the Garunix to summon itself because something was destroyed, summon another Fire King monster because this was destroyed. So you can do a lot of damage and OTK your opponent pretty easily with this, even from a structure deck standpoint, which is nice. We're gonna have this destroy the Imperm. Imperm is gonna trigger, turning off the Sanctuary. I'm going to then destroy Ponix to summon Kieran. That's going to, because I destroyed Ponix, I can trigger the Garunix engrave from the opponent's standpoint. Garunix is going to trigger, it's going to destroy Kieran. Kieran can now non-targeting destroy, and because Sanctuary is turned off, the island can't be protected. That will let me summon Ponix and destroy the island. The island gets destroyed. That triggers as a mandatory effect, and then the Ponix will trigger to search follow-up, so I can search Skyburn. My Garunix will now trigger because a monster was destroyed. So I'm triggering the Sacred Garunix to special summon Kieran, and then the Sacred Fire King Garunix is being able to trigger as well. So I'm chain blocking here by going Garunix to Chainlink 1, Kieran summon off the Young of the Fire Kings is Chainlink 2. So now I am using the Sacred Fire King Garunix. They are, because I special summoned, they're triggering the Sanctuary to special summon their Exceed to wipe my field. I'm triggering Kieran. So what this will do is it'll let me summon Barong. And I will now get to non-targeting pop. So I'm going after the Sanctuary, because if I go after the field spell and they had something, that would end up allowing this to trigger. So I'm just getting rid of this as well for their inability to constantly grind with this card by summoning multiple Exceeds. But you could also go after this if you don't think they have a fire. But I'll be able to get both this turn. So now I can, because I was able to use the Hyong to destroy the back row, I still have my normal summon with Ponix. So let me search the card I want to use so I can get Skyburn, use Skyburn, destroy both my cards, destroy their field. And how this is going to trigger is that the island is going to be Chainlink 1 and the Hyong will be Chainlink 2. So that means the Hyong has to summon and then the island will wipe them. And they've already used all their effects this turn, so nothing's going to trigger here to go off. They'll summon both their cards, and they both get wiped. Here, then I can set my cards, and then we're kind of like in this grindy back and forth game. So just kind of wanted to show an idea of how grinding with even just the structure deck might look for newer players. So someone mentioned it in the comments, they were not sure how to grind with the deck, especially. Just remember, you can use it to trigger your cards on the grave, so you can ram your monsters into your opponents, destroying them, getting triggers if you have Garunix in the grave. You can use Garunix to send Arvata, special summon, send Kieran to non-targeting summon, non-targeting destroy on field. So you have a lot of cool ways you can grind. And just pairing even the structure deck with some hand traps is a great way to kind of get it to a better fighting position even. So it's a little bit longer on this, but I want to cover this kind of basic part with, just kind of the initial combo and grinding. I'll also show is a 2-card combo with the kind of structure deck version, because you might come up with this a little bit more than the standard version, since they're usually putting these both to one, like Fire King Snake Eye deck at this point. So what we're going to do is we have Garunix and Sanctuary. So this actually does get you to the XYZ board wipe that Ponix gets you to, but it's a 2-card combo using pretty much both of these as extender cards. But when paired together, they do work. So you can activate Sanctuary to get Island. Island can destroy the Garunix. That will let you get Ponix. Ponix can trigger itself to special summon because it's also checking on resolution that it was destroyed. It'll then summon itself, trigger. You can use this to get Circle. And to pull this 2-card combo off, you need Circle in the deck. You'll be able to use Circle, destroy Ponix, special summon the Garunix. So this destroys the Ponix, which is nice to come back during the next standby. And then this also lets Garunix trigger to destroy Barong. And then during the next standby phase, you'll be able to trigger the Ponix and the Barong to get the Kieran, and you still have your board wipe that you had with Ponix. So there are ways to pull this off even if you don't get the 1-card combo, and ways you can even play through an Eruption depending on the amount of engine you draw. Okay, so what we're going to go into now is the Dogmatica version of the deck using Nadir's Servant. Now again, I don't think the Dogmatica deck is as good as the Tri-Brigade version if you're trying to play for more budget. In terms of upgrading, I would go with a structure deck, try to upgrade with some basic hand traps you'll use all the time, and do that for like $20 to $30 depending on if you bought the structure decks or not. So you'll have the imperms and drolls. So I would probably go that route, then maybe go Dogmatica if you don't want to spend the money on the Tri-Brigade cards, but if you can spend a little bit more money and go for the Tri-Brigade version, I think that version is better than this. If you like the content I've been producing, either on my YouTube videos, the free guides I produce, to help learn the game, or the resource database I've been building up to especially help new players, consider becoming a patron to support the channel. Liking, subscribing, watching the YouTube videos already helps a lot, but if you're able to become a patron because it's something you're interested in, I have rewards below. You can check them out and join if you'd like. I have links on my website or on the YouTube description, which will link directly to the Patreon if you want to consider joining. All the tiers have a 7-day free trial, so you can try it out and kind of see what's up there, and if you like it and you want to continue. And if not, I totally understand, and I appreciate you checking it out.